Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the smoking section. I'm joined by John, that's the proprietor. I'm the host, Jamar, and we got a special episode for you guys tonight.
We sure
Talking
do.
about, we'll talk about the immortal Hulk Hogan, better known as Terry Eugene Bollea. He was born August 11th, 1953. He's from Tampa, Florida. And we're gonna dive into everything. We're gonna dive into his career. We're
I
gonna
wanna
dive into his scandals and the lies he told today.
see Hogan. Before we get into it, I do want to say this. Um, Hogan is like we was actually discussing earlier. What's the better word to describe him? You feel me? And polarizing, just because like Hogan is he an interesting guy to talk about when it comes to professional wrestling because it's so duplicitous. Like it's two sides to Hogan. And I think what we're gonna do, I guess what I'm trying to say is in this episode, it's kind of like we're diving into Terry Bollea, but we're also talking about Hulk Hogan. Because what we seen growing up and even now and stuff, whether it was wrestling, WWE, WCW, TNA, or whether it was other media platforms, Thunder in Paradise, rocking the wrestling and rock show. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but stuff like that. We always had this. That was Hulk Hogan to me, and the other stuff that we'll get into, that's the Terry Bollea part. So I think that's pretty much what this episode is really, at least what we trying to aim for.
That's true. With Terry Bollea and Hulk Hogan, is it the same? Could it be the same person?
I would, you know what? That's a good question, and I
You
would
know what
say
I mean?
no. I would say that's not the same person because the Hulk Hogan that is Terry Hulk Hogan that is portrayed to us that I grew up watching, that was like my first wrestling hero, and I'm sure a lot of professional wrestling fans, whether they still watch or not, or casuals or whatever, Hogan was that face for us. But that Hogan was the essential good guy. He laid down him and Vince McMahon laid down the blueprint that was followed by John Cena and now
Yeah,
Cody Rhodes. You get what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
that Hogan was what they tried to make Luger, right?
yeah.
Um, they tried to make Ultimate Warrior, right? So many people that they tried to, and it's like that's like the blueprint, but that was the ultimate good guy. He was the ultimate baby face. That is
Say
not
your prayers,
Terry
say your
Bollea.
prayers, and take your
Yeah,
vitamins.
yeah. Everything that he pumped, you feel me? Everything he sold to us and that character, that gimmick that he did so well, that was not Terry Bollea at all. I don't think so. And I guess that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's professional wrestling, it's sports entertainment. It is what it is. You feel me? Mark Calloway
Yeah,
is not really a dead man. He's not really a mortician first and then became a dead man that could freaking control lightning and you feel me? So
yeah.
it doesn't have to be a bad thing necessarily that he portrayed this person and wasn't that, but he's definitely not. His inner core is definitely not holy. That is definitely a gimmick.
Speaking of gimmicks, let's uh let's run through his career real quick. So Hogan, he got his big break in the late 70s, I think in 1977, and he was trained by Hiro Matsuda.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of older fans listening to this, they probably smiling right now because Hiro Matsuda, he was one of the first Japanese wrestlers to go mainstream here in the US. It was him, Mr. Fuji. You know Mr. Fuji.
Mm-hmm.
He had a team partner called Professor Tanaka. I know you heard of Antonio Inoki.
Of course.
You know, that was the first Japanese guys to
like really
break in.
break into the industry up.
Yeah.
And his first match. I got it right down. Got it written down. Damn. It's in my other note.
Hiro Matsuda, you know, he trained Lex Luger, he trained Ron Simmons, he trained Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, he trained the Great Muta, and he trained Bob Orton. And
But you
Bob
know,
Orton is Randy Orton's dad.
But you know that professional wrestling wasn't his first thing. It was music. Hogan was in a few bands. And he was at the gym and he happened to meet the Briscoe brothers. Gerald Briscoe and what's his brother name? It escapes me at the moment. The Briscoe brothers. I know you are a resident historian.
Gerald and Jerry Briscoe.
Yeah, there you go. So they was the ones that was like, yo, you should try professional wrestling. Cause he met them in the gym, yo, for real. Cause like Hogan, they say what got him like watching wrestling before he even like tried to do it was ironically Dusty Rhodes, right? And superstar Billy Graham, which obviously. But yeah, and what promotion was that? First
he first came to the AWA, but before he broke in, going back to his training with Matsuda, like I was naming some of the guys he trained, and Matsuda, he was one of those guys like, you come in his school, you a big muscular guy, like he won't feeling that. Matsuda was a wrestler's wrestler, so fun fact for the week, Matsuda had broke Hogan's leg while they were training, and Hogan was hurt for like, I don't know, 6, 8, 9 weeks, however long it was.
So that's Hogan not one. So that's not one of Hogan's tall tales. That's true. That's not one of Hogan's tall tales.
No, that one was true. Matsuda broke his leg on purpose, and he took some time off and came back. And Matsuda was like, "Oh, all right, so this kid for real. So I'm gonna go ahead and train him for real." He came back. I broke his leg.
Okay.
But Hogan got his big break in the AWA, and a lot of old timers are probably familiar with that. Vern Gagne, that's where Eric Bischoff got his start from the AWA.
A lot of people got their start in the AWA. Didn't Jim Ross?
Yeah, Jim Ross had a cup of coffee through there. Mr. Perfect, Rick Martel, Nick Bockwinkel, Harley Race. I mean, you name it. A lot of people don't dip their toes through the AWA. Sherry Martel.
All right, so
you can go on and on.
You are a resident historian, and it's told that Hogan came to the WWF to work, with Vince Pops, Vince Sr., but was he stolen away, or was Vince Jr. the one that stole Hogan from Japan?
No, Hogan left from the AWA straight to WWF.
Straight to WWF. Okay. Yeah. So that must be another one of those those wrestling stories.
Yeah, that got to be what it is. Hogan did go to Japan though.
Yeah, I
But
know
he
he
never.
wrestled in Japan because he was a lot more technical in Japan, actually.
Yeah, he was
He,
getting insecure and all that.
yeah, because when he became, like the Hulkster, his move set was dumbed down tremendously, actually. For a guy his size, Hogan had
Yeah,
agility. I watch. I wouldn't say I watched all of the matches, but I watched the highlights of a young Hogan in Japan. He was moving around,
yeah.
but like I said, you are a resident historian, so take us through the initial, what set him off, like what put him on that path to Hulkamania.
Well, what started to the trajectory is he starred in Rocky 3,
Thunderlips.
and he was Thunderlips in Rocky
Yeah.
3. He was one of the antagonists for Stallone, and what was that 78, 79 maybe, but he was still with the AWA when that happened. So that kind of already put him on the map. Like, oh,
Yeah.
who's this big muscular guy? And he was already buzzing. He was popping.
Yeah.
He was popular in the AWA. The crowd fucked with him. But Vern Gagne never put the belt on him. So Hogan never won an AWA title. So after a while, Hogan like, yo, I'm gonna go ahead and just go on over here to Vince because I don't like my booking. And
Yeah.
as Jim Ross would say, it's either two reasons why a wrestler would leave: cash or creative. The two C's.
Yeah.
So Hogan he came to the WWF in '83, in the middle of '83, and I guess how Vince is. If you look good walking through the airport,
And that's what I was about. That's exactly what I
Vince
was
gonna
about
fuck
to
with
ask you. That's exactly what I was. That was my next question. Like, okay, so what
him.
was it? I'm sorry.
I'm about to say, the fans might not know Hogan is 6 feet. Well, in his prime, he was 6'7",
Yeah.
275 pounds. So that's a big dude.
So that was pretty much Vince see this guy and this is my guy. Like off the
Yeah.
rip, or did he at least have to take notice later on? Like, we probably got something here, or was it just
Oh,
like off the rip?
Vince McMahon knew because, like I said, he was already buzzing from the AWA in the Rocky
Yeah.
movie, and during that time, Bob Backlund was the WWF champion, and that was his dad's champion. Vince took over in '84.
Yeah.
So Vince like, man, I need a new champion. I'm gonna get this belt off Bob Backlund. So he had the Iron Sheik beat Bob Backlund. Iron Sheik was a transitional champion, and it was Madison Square Garden, January 1984. Madison Square Garden. That's a big venue. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And that's when Hogan hit that leg drop on Sheik and won the title for the first time. Hulkamania was born. It was
And
set.
was that one the because he won it 6 times. That one the 1,474 days, his longest reign, or was
Yeah,
that's the one that kicked it off?
yep. That was in '84.
In that reign, in that particular one, would you say that anybody benefited from working with Hogan?
Yeah, a lot of people. It might not have seemed like it, but a lot of people benefited from Hogan, especially if you was getting paid. You working against him, you was getting paid in those days.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so you already know I'm not really a big fan of Terry Bollea, but one thing that's common with him, a lot of people have said it too, that one thing Hogan would say is you'll make sure you get your money.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of he put on a lot of heels. You know, Earthquake,
Yeah.
Big Boss Man, One Man Gang, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Roddy Piper. I mean, Slaughter. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
First
So,
man, first man to win consecutive rumbles.
yep.
And you know what?
1991.
Nowadays, it's like all right, we tired of this dude now, right? We want somebody new or something like that. It was never like that with Hogan when he was coming up. It's like we just knew that he was just gonna be the champion forever.
Yeah.
And we was cool with it. We was all right with it, you know.
Vince knew what he was doing. He didn't want boring ass Bob Backlund as his champion anymore. And Hogan was so colorful and polarizing, like you say. Let's put it on him, and they trying to go global and mainstream, and that comes to the invention of what we know as WrestleMania. But WrestleMania 1, which happened in 1985, a little over a year after Hogan won the belt. A lot of people might not know. And the story's out there. A lot of older fans might know, but Vince almost went bankrupt fucking with WrestleMania. He
Yeah,
put everything
yeah,
on the line.
yeah.
So
He
if
put
this
everything
thing
on
would
the
have
line.
flopped, it would have been all over. And people might not want to admit it, but thanks to a large part of Hogan, WrestleMania 1 was a success
Of course. I mean,
because the main event was Hogan and Mr. T.
to Hogan in general, I mean, like, we don't have even what we doing right now. We don't have that without Hogan. Hogan was like
Mm-hmm.
that first guy to cross over into mainstream to actually probably I don't know, but I would probably say Hogan was the guy to bring wrestling out of that carny. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that little it's just a little carnival show, it's a little wrestling show and stuff like that. Like Hogan like really put wrestling on his back and made the world take notice, which was why I wanted to also talk about his impact of ushering that into mainstream media. Because like we was talking before, um, he had the cartoon, he in the
Yeah.
commercials, he's on the talk shows, he's in the TV shows, the movies, like,
Yeah.
and now he got people tuning in to wrestling to see him beat this person or whatever the case may be is. Like he really, really brought a lot of eyes to wrestling. And he's the reason why a lot stayed too.
Most definitely. If social media was around back then, he would what we call viral. He'd be very viral right now.
Right. You
You know what I'm
think
saying?
do you think he was the right guy at the right time in the right moment? Or do you think anybody could have pulled that off if they had the right physique? Or it had to be him?
I think it had to be Hogan, because he might not go out there and do a whole bunch of backflips and hurricanranas and have a 5-star match, but Hogan is a good storyteller in the ring, and he got a lot of charisma, so it worked for him. You know what I'm saying?
He's been a part of some of the best and most historical storylines, professional wrestling history. Hogan versus Andre, obviously. Hogan versus Sheik.
Yep.
The Mega Powers implode. Rock
Yep.
versus Hogan. You know,
Yep.
um, yeah,
None
like
of those are considered great matches though, but we still talk about them.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because
tell you
I mean,
why.
they was never supposed to be great matches, and if they are great matches, it's for a different ring, a different reason, not for the in ring physicality of it, but for the storytelling and the reactions, the facial expressions, and you know, building character. All of
Yeah.
that stuff. Hogan is great at all. Now he hammered up a lot, but that's Hogan. That's what we expect from him. You know.
Mhm.
So you want to talk a little bit more about his WWF career, or you want to transition into why he left and how he ended up in WCW?
Yeah, we can go towards that end, but he did main event the first 9 WrestleManias. You know,
I
I don't think
mean,
nobody's done that. I mean, he probably main event Manias, but not 9 of them in a row.
not
Um,
not in a row. Roman almost there though.
yeah, I think he was close to one. But yeah, we know Hogan. He left the WWF in '93 in the midst of the steroid trial. We all know about that. You know, out of everything, he ain't really snitch on his boy Vince. But you know,
Which I still firmly believe no steroid trial, no steroid trial. We don't get Bret Hart. We don't get Shawn Michaels. We don't get those guys. Hogan and the rest of the guys still are at the top of the card if there's no steroid trial.
yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, they would have got there, but it wouldn't have been that soon. But they was working their way up. You know,
Yeah, it definitely would have been that soon.
yeah, it was IC champions, but you know, had to get Hogan out the way. That just thrust him up a little quicker.
Yeah, now you got to clean up the image. Now you can't really portray all of these big, bulky, muscle-bound dudes.
Yeah. As far as Brett, that was a whole different animal anyway. But that's gonna be a whole nother episode.
Yeah,
But he did do Brett dirty on the way out.
yep. I hate that finish, man. I cannot stand that finish. Like how, but at the same time, I'm thinking Vince doesn't want to beat Yoko, right? But WrestleMania, especially up until that time, Vince always made a point of sending the crowd home happy at the end of WrestleMania. You feel me? Baby faces usually stand tall at the main event of WrestleMania because it was the
Yeah,
whole point of sending the crowd home happy. So maybe
Hogan,
Vince, huh?
Hogan did.
Exactly. Maybe that's where Hogan comes into play. You feel me? I don't want
Yeah,
to beat Yoko, but I also want to send the crowd. I don't want Brett to beat Yoko, but I also want to send the crowd home happy. Let's
mm,
bring Hogan out. And you know Hogan is not gonna he's not gonna give any pushback on that.
yeah.
That works for me, brother.
And for the people who listen there who might not know the finish of that match or never saw the match, it was Bret Hart versus Yokozuna at WrestleMania 9, and Bret Hart had Yokozuna in a sharpshooter. And while he was doing it, Mr. Fuji threw some salt in Bret Hart's eyes. Yokozuna got the win. Bret, setting his eyes all fucked up, and Hogan came out there, and Mr. Fuji, for some reason, challenged Hogan for a match. And Bret, like, all right, go ahead, go ahead,
Brett
go
said, "Go get him."
ahead. And
There he is.
Hogan,
The one that did it. Go get him,
big
Hogan.
leg drop and one tighter than 1 minute. So, it was supposed to set up Bret versus Hogan, but Hogan didn't do business the right way.
After he told Brett that he appreciated Brett for WrestleMania 9, and that when the time comes, he'll pay it back. And Brett told him, "I'm gonna hold you to that."
Yep. And Hogan like, nah, I ain't trying to lose to Brett, so I lose it back to Yokozuna. And that's how Hogan lost on the way out. And he still didn't lose clean. It was a photographer with the flash camera.
Yeah.
And blinded in the eye. Still can't lose clean.
Look how fast he kicked out to Look how fast he got up with Warrior at Mania.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Oh, you beat me, brother, but just by a millisecond, brother.
That boy Hogan.
Terry Bollea, man.
That was the him, and he was taking a break, and he was actually shooting Thunder in Paradise, and so it happened. Ric Flair and was on a set with to go talk to Hogan, introduced him to Eric Bischoff, and that's how he became. That's how he came to WCW.
And Bischoff used Ted Turner's checkbook, which I ain't mad at. Some people be salty about it, but look, whatever it takes. This Hogan, this is the face of professional wrestling, right? You told me that you want to go in a competition with Vince McMahon. All right, this is how you do it. This is one of the ways you do it.
Yep.
I ain't mad at him. You feel me? And Hogan gonna go where the money at, right?
Exactly.
Sidebar. Me and my brother used to watch Thunder in Paradise all the time. I ain't know how trash it was until I got older and seen some stuff on YouTube. But as a kid, yeah, I watched it. I was a Hogan fan. I used to love the boat. The boat used to do this little stealth. You couldn't see it and stuff like that. He had a daughter. Remember, Sting was on it. Sting was a bad guy, probably one of his main villains, I think. Yeah, I remember Thunder in Paradise, man. Sidebar.
Even as a kid, I couldn't watch that shit.
It used to come on. I think what in that block, in that TV block with like Hercules and Xena, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was on USA. Yeah, you a good one.
Yeah, it was on USA. Yep. But yeah, that was just a little sidebar.
When Hogan came to WCW, this was 94, so he first won the belt in 84. So 10 years of say your prayers and take your vitamins, the crowd started hating that. He started getting booed a little bit in WCW.
It's the 90s. It's a different time. We have Married with Children, right? We have The Simpsons. We got Cops. You feel me? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all of that stuff. You feel me? We got like things are starting to get a little bit realer. We got The Real World, MTV and stuff like that. Things are starting to get a little bit realer. And it's the 90s. Also outside, the world is rougher, Yeah. Things going on around in this time, yo. So we ain't really looking for some superhero that's never gonna come. We grew up. We growing up. You feel me? And I think that's what it was. Like we've been eating these vitamins for a long time and saying our praise and ain't nothing get better. You feel me? And yeah, pretty much. So that was definitely fading out. It definitely was. And then on top of that, I don't know if you're talking about that exact period, but if you are, on the flip side, you got the badass Stone Cold, who's a good guy, right? But he a cool good guy. He ain't talking about no vitamins and saying prayers. Only prayers he talking about is Austin 316. That's cooler. You feel me? And we see Hogan like, nah, we rocking with this guy.
And a lot of fans, man. I see a lot of fans online that said John Cena heel turn was the best heel turn in the history of wrestling. But what about when Hogan turned heel? Shouldn't that be the best heel turn in wrestling history?
I was going to ask, how old is that person? When did they start watching? And have they ever went back and watched? You feel me? Like stuff that they miss. Because
Yeah.
I go back and watch certain things. I wouldn't say everything, but I do go back and I watch certain things. You feel me? That I wasn't watching when I was growing up. You know. So yeah, to anybody who says that, my first initial thought is, how old are they? You know,
You know what I'm
because
saying?
everybody knows that is the heel turn. That's like the most, what is it? Swerve, cannon moment. You feel
Yeah.
me? In professional wrestling history, yo, that leg drop. And I
For the
love it
fans that
that
don't
he.
know,
But who is he here? Whose side is he on? What do you mean? Whose side he's on?
yeah, Bobby Heenan
Yeah,
kind of blew it. But for the fans that might not know, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall had came to WCW by then. They was Razor, Ramon, and Diesel in WWF.
he was the
They had
outsider.
came over. It was the outsiders, started a little angle. You know, you're gonna bring your best guys, we bring our best guys, but we got a third guy. So when the match started, there was no third guy. In the WCW squad, it was Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger. And Lex Luger had got injured in the match. They had put him out. So it was 2-on-2. So you know, the heels was getting their heat and Hogan just came out. And, you know, so that's what you said. Well, whose side is he on? You know, he hit that leg drop on Randy Savage and
I ain't gonna
crowd
lie,
was
man.
crazy.
When that real American hit, I'm like, come Hogan. You feel me? Here come Hogan. From there, the NWO was born, and I mean, to this day, that's one thing. It's a lot of things you can't take away from Hogan, but that's one of the most important things as well. Nobody will ever be able to take the NWO away from Kevin Nash, Hogan, or Scott Hall.
Nah.
The NWO transcended pop culture, man. Everybody, when I wear my NWO shirt, no matter where I'm at, yo, I promise you, at least 4 or 5 people is gonna throw up the Tucson or say for life or something like that when they see it. Real talk. And I do the
Yeah.
same thing when I see somebody with an NWO shirt.
And people need to realize too, man, you know, as far as merchandise sales and stuff, that shit really matters. And the top merch sellers, that shit really matters. You got Jay Uso and
Mm-hmm.
Cody Rhodes and stuff, and in the top 15, you also got NWO t-shirts to this day in the top selling merch. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
for sure. I got mine. For real. I got like 2 of them. Real talk.
You
They
know,
were like the first. Hogan and Scott Hall and Nash was like the first real cool bad guys
yeah,
that people weren't afraid to cheer. I wouldn't say afraid, but people actually cheered for. You may like, well, Ric Flair was cheered for. I ain't gonna lie. People like Flair. People like Flair. But you get what I'm saying though? Like
yeah,
they was bad, but they was cool. And until Sting started, and until they started going that Sting, I used to like seeing them beat people up. I ain't gonna lie.
yeah. They start getting babyface reactions a little bit, especially on the
Yep.
outside.
Sting and DDP is what made me not like them. Cause I was a big fan of DDP and Sting. Like I fucks with Sting and DDP.
Yeah, but before we get to Sting, Sting he went up in the rafters for like
Yeah,
18 months.
yeah. And I can't wait till we get around to Sting. because the icon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because that was a cool moment for real. Crow Sting is my favorite Sting. It's a lot of people's favorite Sting.
Sting went to the Raptors around it probably was like around October, November, December '96, some shit like that. And he went wrestling for a minute, changed his face paint, and NWO just racking up
The Russian.
members,
Yep.
30, 40 deep, and it seemed like they was unstoppable. But until one man beat Hogan clean, and the fans might not know, Hogan don't lose clean, not too many times. He always
Nah.
lose on a finish. It was the 100th episode of Nitro. Hogan lost clean to Lex Luger in the torture rack, and that was the moment.
Yep.
It was a proper rating, but it was still a moment though.
So we talking about Hogan, we talking about the heel turn, we talking about NWO. Would you like to tell people about the finger poker finger poker duel?
Yeah, we can talk about that too. We can talk about that too. You want to skip right to it, or
I mean, we on the course of WCW NWO, and that's probably like the most infamous moment of the NWO. Like probably one of the most, you feel me, polarizing, if you will. that move right there was crazy. Like how you do that?
you know, you split the NWO up, so you think Hogan and Nash beef, and so you got this new wrestler that won 179 matches and never lost one. He's the world champion Goldberg. People don't like him, but hey,
Not at that time. Everybody loved him.
and going to fun fact of the week. We're gonna do this segment quite often, so get used to this. Fun fact of the week. When Goldberg fought Hogan on Nitro in like July '98, when Goldberg beat Hogan for the belt, that was the most watched match in wrestling history on cable TV, not pay-per-view. On cable TV, that was the most watched match in wrestling history. That match was viewed in 7 million homes. So 7 million TVs was watching that shit that night. Now it got bumped to number two. It got bumped to number two, and the most watched match in cable history was The Rock versus Stone Cold the night after WrestleMania 15. But anyway, going back to the finger poke. Yeah, you got this hot wrestler Goldberg, man. So you end his streak. Kevin Nash won the belt. All right, cool. We're gonna run with Kevin Nash, big sexy. Cool, I'm fine with that. So Hogan come back. All right, Hogan versus Nash for the belt. All right, I can dig that. Hogan versus Nash, the two NWO stable mates ready to go head to head. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? Nah, they get in the ring. Hogan take his finger and poke the man, and the man took a bump
and laid down.
and pinned him and won the belt back. And that was the downfall. That wasn't a downfall of WCW. People think it is. It was already dying. That just made it 10 times worse.
Yeah, because that was, like has been said so many times, that was nothing but backstage politics and ego with all of them.
And that was also Kevin Nash booking, because Kevin Nash was the booker during that time too.
I respect you, Booker man.
Garbage. But hey,
I'll be honest, I don't really know too much about Hogan's TNA run. I don't even really care too much about it, to be honest. Um,
We ain't gotta go that far because we could run through his WWE return real quick in
yeah,
'02.
his run, which I ain't gonna lie, I ain't even really mind that run too much. It was actually pretty decent to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it was pretty good. He came back with Hall and Nash.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Star Hall didn't last too long. Playing Rock for Hell was during that time. We did get Rock and Hogan out of that.
Which is one of the greatest WrestleMania matches in WWE history.
Yeah, and now one backflip was in the match.
Nah, I ain't. Who's gonna do a backflip in that match?
And that's what a lot of these fans want. They
I
want that
mean,
suicide dive.
you got a variety of fans, yo. You had like, cause when it comes to that, that's a whole different episode, by the way. But I
It
will
is.
say, like, it's like Matt. It's like rap, man. It's like music. It's rap. The genre rap is so many subgenres of it, of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
And and
But
that's
don't
one of
disrespect the pioneers because you didn't grow up on that. You know what I'm saying?
hmm?
I'm just saying don't disrespect the pioneers because you didn't grow up on it.
Yeah,
That's what I see. You know,
like the
to give,
luchadors.
to give you an example.
What, like the spots, like the back flipping and stuff like that. The spots.
I mean, you had the fans online. I seen a fan said the triple threat match between at WrestleMania. We reviewed it, episode 1. Check it out.
Check that out.
Um, the CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns match. People said that match was trash and boring because there wasn't no backflips in it. I added that part, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, come on.
I mean, I really don't know what he could have wanted. That match to me was the one that actually gave me the WrestleMania feel on that one. You feel
Some
me?
guys said it was boring, bro.
But that's a whole nother episode, which I
Yeah,
guess we should probably talk about that next week, yo. To be honest,
yeah. We don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but
exactly. But that match between The Rock and Hulk Hogan is one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. I mean, you have the past pretty much, you feel me, with the present at the time,
it's
you
kind of
know,
passing the torch a little bit.
which is crazy because you would think that would be a Hogan and Austin match.
It was supposed to be. A lot of people might not know that it was pitched for Hogan versus Austin, but Austin turned it down. And Bruce Pritchard said this on his
So
podcast, and
Austin turned it down and then got upset that he was having a match with Scott Hall at Mania.
yeah, and Joe Ross, and Bruce Pritchard verified this on their podcast. If anybody want to search and look it up,
I'm
but yeah,
sorry. I
Austin
rock with
said,
I rock with Austin, but how you turn down a WrestleMania match with Hulk Hogan and you get mad because you get put in a match with Scott Hall?
he said he felt like him and Hogan Styles wouldn't mesh, and it wouldn't. And think about during that time. It's not the '90s Hogan. Think about it. Hogan
Yeah,
versus Austin. It looked good on paper, but that match would have been trash.
but this is also the ringmaster. You feel me?
But
It's not like Austin can't. It's not like Austin can work more to Hogan style with a little bit of his style in there.
think about it. You know, Austin was gone 1 year later, so he was on the tail end of his career too.
Yeah.
Austin was
I'm
going
glad.
1 year later.
I'm glad that we got Rock and Hogan, but now I know. But I was curious to you would think that'd be Austin and Hogan, but now I know. Yep.
It was supposed to be, and then when
I
we
want
got
to
it
turn
there,
that.
Austin and Max, so they put him on Scott Hall, and if Scott Hall couldn't make it, they had Kevin Nash as a backup. That's why Kevin Nash ain't getting no match that year.
Hey yo, that was WrestleMania what 18?
Yeah. And Austin, he the guy that complain about his creative, but don't have no other ideas. But anyways, this is about Hogan today.
Yeah.
We could do an Austin episode sometime in the future.
Some of his opponents when he came back to WWE, Rock, Angle, Lesnar, Shawn Michaels. He had some pretty, good matches and feuds and stuff with people. Like, did we ever really think that we was gonna get Randy Orton? We ever thought we was gonna get a Hogan versus Kurt Angle? You feel me?
And another fun fact, Hogan rarely lose clean, but
he tapped out to Angle.
He tapped out. Hogan never tapped out before.
Yep, he tapped out to Angle. Yep,
the first person made Hogan tap out.
And he let Brock squash him.
Yep. So I mean, is Hogan all that bad? Come on, guys.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is.
He might be because we're gonna move on to that next segment of the show. He might be all that bad. Let's talk about some of his lies that he told. You go, run through a few of them.
All right, so I actually wrote some of them down. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
So, according to Terry Hogan Balea, Elvis Presley was a Hulkamaniac. Huge fan of Hulk Hogan. Elvis Presley loved Hulk Hogan, but here's the kicker. Elvis died in 1977, 2 years before Hogan's debut in the Memphis territory.
Exactly.
Plus, Hulk Hogan actually kind of like, you had said it, like really kicked steam when he had beat Sheik. And what year was that? I know you know.
84.
84. Yep.
So Elvis Presley died in 77. You popped off in 84. So how's Elvis a fan of you?
How is Elvis a fan of you? All right. For those that's watching that don't know, Hulk Hogan is infamous for his lies. There was a saying about Hogan. I'm sure y'all probably heard the saying before. You probably heard your mom say, your grandmoms, your grandpops, your uncle, or whatever. If Hogan lips are moving, he lying.
And that's a messed up reputation to have, man.
But he's the one that that was just one. What else I have up here? Metallica's arrival in the music industry was due to the popularity of Hogan. Turns out Hogan almost joined their band and almost became a bassist, but never heard back from Jerry Hall. But this was James Hetfield's reaction. I guess he's one of the people in it.
Yeah, he one of the band members.
One of the band members. When he's asked about it, and I quote, definitely not. But anyway, I guess it's a good fit. I mean, he would make us look very small. But he was like, what? Definitely not. That never happened. The George Foreman grill. The guy who had the idea for the George Foreman grill, or he was the one that was going to finance it, whatever. Whoever was behind the George Foreman grill,
Yeah.
called up Hogan, right? And he told everybody today, and he got two different stories to this, because the first version is he went and picked up his kids from school. He went and picked up Brooke, and I don't know his other son name, but he went and picked up Nick. Yeah. Went and picked up Brooke and Nick from school, and he had McDonald's. He had a bunch of burgers and stuff, and it was so good because it was a surprise, and they hadn't seen him in so long, and he was going to be a big deal for them because they could say, my dad is Hogan, that's a big deal, brother, And then in the other version is he stopped at the store and just got a whole bag of candy. So when they got in, like, they was happy to see him, but they was even happier when they got in the car, saw the big bag of candy. But anyway, he missed that phone call.
Yep.
Because he went to go pick his kids up, or he was going to pick his kids up or something like that. But then he says that he had the idea of pushing the meatball maker. But somebody was like, no, not the meatball maker. You should try out the grill. You should endorse the grill. And he was like, nah, I don't want to do that. So because he didn't want to endorse the grill and get behind the grill and be the face of the grill, they called up George Foreman. And then Foreman just took off, and you feel me? And it just became real big, brother. Now everybody's got a George Foreman grill, but it, could have easily been the Hogan's grill, brother. But the funny thing about it is, the dude's family said the man always wanted George Foreman for it. He never considered anybody. His family said this. Yeah. He never considered anybody else except George Foreman. And they said his name. They have no idea what Hogan is talking about.
Trying to take credit for the Foreman grill.
There is the Undertaker story. You want to say this one? Because you're our resident. Because I'm sure I can't really pinpoint certain matches in certain years. My knowledge of that extends to the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression and stuff like that. You feel me? But it was the match where Ric Flair helped take a win.
Yeah, that was Tuesday in Texas.
All right, Tuesday in Texas.
November of 1990.
So, mind you, this is, to everybody watching, this isn't the Undertaker that we know right now, right? This isn't the dead man. This isn't the locker room leader. This isn't the most respected man, probably one of the most respected men in professional wrestling history. This is a young rookie, Mark Calloway. And he is scheduled to go over on Hulk Hogan, the breadwinner, the top guy, the one that's pretty much the reason why everybody getting checks. Keep that in mind, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the story is told as they're going over the finish. And Undertaker told this story on his podcast. But I guess as they're going over the finish in the match and whatever the case may be is, Hogan's like, brother, you got to do the whole. If you're a wrestling fan, you got to do the Hogan voice.
Yeah.
He's I'm paraphrasing too, people, but brother, that movie of yours is real dangerous. You gotta hold me tight. You gotta make sure I don't hit, brother. So pretty much, Hogan is just like really, really always coming back to that. So he already kind of got Taker nervous, but. They go in there, they had a match. Mind you, this is a young Taker. You feel me?
Yeah.
They go in there, and Taker himself said it.
Talk about Taker. He only been on WF for 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. Exactly. So, they go in there and had a match. Taker, like, he did it as safe as he could possibly be. He knew he was safe. hit the pile driver, 1, 2, 3, bam. But Hogan
Oh, you
is
got me,
oh, you got me, brother. He says that he says that to Taker. Oh, you got me, brother. And then he lays down on the mat for an extended period of time, hamming it up. The only way Hogan can do. They say he get to the back. The man's on the floor. He got everybody around him. He's talking about get Linda on the phone, call the kids. And Taker said it. He was like, "Oh shit, I messed up. Yo. I just injured our breadwinner. I injured Hogan. Vince is gonna fire me. Boys ain't gonna like me. Now their checks is you feel me? Like, so I forget who it was. Do you remember who it was that came to Taker? And was like, Shane. It was Shane. He said Shane came to him and was like, yo, I seen the tape. His head never hit. Go back and watch it. Told Taker, go back and watch it. His head never hit. So Taker said he had to wait.
To like a week later.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, he had to wait, you feel me? Because ain't on social media and stuff like that. But he said, I'm sorry?
It wasn't no cell, it wasn't even no internet back then. So people don't
wasn't none of that. Which was simpler times in some ways. That's another episode too. But so Taker finally sees it, and he said he saw for himself. Hogan's head never hit the mat. He did it safely as he saw, as he set out to do.
Yep.
So he said he was should he say something about it, but it was eating at him. So Taker being Taker went to Hogan and was like, yo, man, I was watching the tape and your head never hit, man. Like, I watched the tape. Your head never hit. Oh, no, what happened, brother, was you had me so tight. You held me so tight between my neck.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
That you pinch something and like, come on, Hogan. Come on, Hogan. But that's that split personality. I don't know what we call it. You feel me? What we was talking about earlier, that's that gimmick, the all-American hero, the baby, the white meat baby face, the guy that everybody can get, the superhero, Superman. And then there is,
I don't know why he lied, but in Hogan's defense for that one, I don't want to say it's wrestling one-on-one, but Hogan did go through some territories. So he probably picked up some habits that shit, I'm the top guy and I see another guy on the rise getting popularity, getting steam. I need to slow that shit down a little bit. So he probably tried to sabotage, take on some shit.
But my thing is, why it gotta be that way? For everybody eating.
Yeah.
You had your time in the sun. Your time not even over yet. They just only building this dude up. He only been here, yeah.
So I went in the territory. Niggas was
that's crazy though.
All about they self.
Cutthroat. And Hogan was one of the worst of them. Then outside of the ring, the racist comments, right? That voice recording when he was talking to Nick, his son, on the phone while Nick in jail, and they blaming the kid that is laid up in the hospital like a paraplegic or vegetable, one of them. Yes, you never heard that? Google that and listen to that. Hogan literally says it makes you wonder what kind of kid that he was that God put that on him. Your son was driving. Yes, he was in the car. Great. He was in the car. You feel me? Dude was with it and everything, but don't put all of that on that kid and say what type. Your son was driving. Your son was racing. Your son was drunk. That's crazy. And then they having a whole conversation about how they could cash out on it. Yeah, I'll talk to such and such, and we'll see if we can get a show. His son joking about how he's faking about how they can make a show about him changing the error of his ways and shit, like seeing the error of his ways and stuff like that. To all those watching, this is the part where it gets a little real. In my personal opinion, Hogan is a piece of shit. Real talk. Take away everything that the man done for professional wrestling. That dude is one of the worst people, man. I don't see many redeeming qualities in him. With stories,
going back to the steroid scandal, he ain't really a snitch on Vince though, so he ain't no snitch. So he admitted to using steroids, but he said it was prescribed.
What do I care about that?
You know what I'm saying? He ain't telling his boy.
What do I care about him not telling on Vince, the man that made him a millionaire? Okay.
And he was working for Turner by then. By the time the trial went on, he was already working for Turner.
Yep. But at the same time, you don't want your daughter with no niggas.
Yeah, that sex tape that came out in 2015.
I don't care about the sex tape. Whatever the man do, that's whatever he do. I really don't give a shit about who's smashing who. That ain't none of my business. For real. I never really cared about that. That ain't none of my business. But because you ain't snitch on your man, I don't give a fuck. I don't care about that at all, yo. Hogan has tried to sabotage people's careers, right? He's a racist or have racial tendencies and thoughts. That's all of this is out his own mouth, right? He was trying to find a way to cash in on his son doing time for like the third or second or something DUI, where he crashed the car and his friend ended up being a vegetable. And he trying to find a way to cash out on that, and he's blaming the kid about it.
Well, Hogan said he can't live unless he's making $1 million a year. He said that.
I don't care about that. Why do I care about that? I don't care about that shit. We talking about who he is. I'm talking about who he is. And that's why I honestly believe, man, if I was to ever become a millionaire, multimillionaire, whatever the case, I would have to win a lottery. Because I can't do the things that Hogan did to get those millions and all of that shit. And a lot of other people, but we talking about Hogan. It's not in me. Hogan is a twisted individual, yo.
And the sex tape that came out when he was saying nigga on it, John. He was saying with him, the type of man he don't want his daughter to fuck with, y'all, bitch ass niggas. But the people who put that tape out, they got sued for $140 million. So he ate off that.
Yeah, he ate off.
He apologized for saying nigga and still got $140 million.
Of course he gonna eat. Because Hogan has always been about money, like you just said. Hogan he gonna eat off of anything. He gonna try to capitalize off of any. It speaks a lot. You heard about when his wife went live on Instagram or some shit, and a fucking drunk rant or some crazy shit. But then Brooke had to come in that shit, and I'm paraphrasing. In fact, fuck it, I'll read the goddamn quote. It says a lot when your own daughter don't rock with you, yo.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck Hogan on did over there.
Says she has no contact with her mom, nothing to do with her father.
You know, right around 2015, when that sex tape and all that shit came out, the WWE they removed him from the Hall of Fame too.
They let her back in.
Yeah, 3 years later in 2018, they let him back in. They ain't say nothing.
Look, this is
Everybody
what she
still
said.
waiting back when Hogan was back in.
There was a recent video posted by my mother that was concerning enough for people to send to me, Brooks said in a lengthy message. That has made me feel the need to address the tip of a very large iceberg that is my immediate family. What little I am addressing does not even scratch the surface of what I've dealt with my entire life. Damn, they only got that first quote, but it's a whole rant, which I probably wasn't gonna read that whole shit anyway, but it says something when your daughter don't even have enough in her to even go back and forth with you. She just completely separated herself from the entire family, yo. She hadn't spoken to them in years. In years. Like Hogan is nah. He ain't shit. He's a horrible person, yo. At least that's my opinion of him. And it is what it is. He got his millions, you feel me? And a lot of that ain't gonna be able to change it. But when he came out on that Netflix premiere and got booed out the building,
Yeah.
he felt that.
Yeah, I know he did because I
He
felt that
heard
shit.
everybody. He heard everybody laughing at him. Taker said as soon as he saw him, he started laughing.
Damn.
For real. And Taker said it. It's just,
But part
sometimes
of me,
it comes
part of me
around.
like, I'm like, damn though. You know what I'm saying?
Because now we know who you are. We know who you are. And what's worse is, this might be a little dramatic or cliche, but as kids, nigga, we believed in you. You feel me? And
Yeah.
you this. And
I
then
had
for
to watch
us, me and you and other people, you don't even rock with us. You don't even rock with us because we black. We was one of your main supporters. Like, nah, man. I got respect for what Hogan did for the business. I got respect for all his accomplishments, all the moments, because we have many moments from Hogan. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, I respect all of that, yo. And I respect what we have now and everything that I love about professional wrestling. I'm a diehard professional wrestling fan. Like, so I can't ignore that. Just like I can't ignore Vince and what he's done for professional wrestling. But it ain't shit. As a human, you ain't shit, yo, for real.
I mean, you're a 6-time WWE champion, 6-time WCW champion, 2-time Royal Rumble winner. You know,
So is the Miz. Not a two-time Royal Rumble winner and everything, but Miz got accolades too.
yeah, but
Hogan is Hogan. He gonna always be Hogan, but what I like is that now it is out a whole lot more. Hogan can't ride that wave no more. He can't be that real American no more.
shit, even when the what WrestleMania was 2021, WrestleMania 37, when he was the guest host with Titus O'Neil, he came out, he was getting booed in too.
Yeah.
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
He still
the professional wrestling world they hip to his shit now, yo. We hip to it. We are hip because this is, in fact, we have been thriving in the age of information for decades now. You feel me? It ain't much that you can hide no more. It's gonna come out. Something gonna come out eventually, especially with your name in the spotlight like that. We hip to him, and it's so bad that that's all we see now. We see Terry Bollea. We don't see Hogan. Or we see Hogan or whatever, but we see him. We see, you feel me?
Yeah.
We can't ignore it anymore.
Might be the same person. Who knows?
He gave us what he gave us, and I respect him for that. And I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 38 years old now, and I call bullshit.
Well, there you have it, Mr. Hogan. It's too bad the Insight couldn't join us on this one. We tried to do you justice, Mr. Hogan, but you did this to yourself. At the same time, I say he's the most important and most controversial figure in wrestling.
Definitely, without a doubt. Without a doubt. He is, in fact, the most important person in professional wrestling, I would say. Outside of him and Vince. Because you don't get one without the other. You feel me?
That's true. And we didn't get to the WrestleMania match they had, but we had enough of Hogan for the day.
Yeah, fuck him. He had his time in the spotlight, at least our spotlight.
We're gonna go ahead and close this one out, and I want you guys to stay tuned to episode 3 next week. We're gonna try to do these things every week. Brand new topics. We will need y'all to like and subscribe, please. And hit the bell, so anytime a new episode drop, you'll be the first one to get it.
I want to add, I know this is going out on a limb here, but tell us some stuff that I don't know, y'all probably want our opinion on. It don't have to be professional wrestling. If y'all got any ideas or want to hear something from us, drop it down in the comment section and let us know, and we can talk about it, think about it, and who knows, might get an episode, yo. You feel me? So with that being said, think we done here?
Yeah, I think we're done here. And for John, I am Jamar. Peace. Good night.
And I am John. We will holla at y'all. See y'all next week on the smoking section.
Peace.